A to the K.
To the K.
To the K. Hello and welcome to the A to the K Wrestling Show, where it's time to come aboard the Ho Train because we've got the honor of welcoming an absolute legend in the Godfather. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Man, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome, thank you.
What we'd like to do is, if we could sort of kick off. Firstly, we know that you'll be coming across the pond to our country for Wales Comic Con later this year.
Yes, it's going to be a good time. Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to we'll probably elaborate on that in a little bit, but we note that you'll be appearing as both the Godfather and as Papa Shango as well.
Man, I don't know what's up with that Papa Shango dude, man, but he seems to follow me no matter where I go. So I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up.
Fantastic. So first thing I'd like to ask, if we could, is if we could talk about how the sort of character of Papa Shango came about, if that's okay.
Okay.
So was this sort of your brainchild, or was this like sort of a combination of a few different people? Or?
Well, what happened was I'd had a tryout with them, and Vince hired me. And so Vince is like, well, we're going to put you on contract. He goes, we got to figure out what we're going to do with you. He says, you have a body of a monster, but you have a baby face. And he goes, we got to do something with that face. So he said, we're going to put you on contract. Just keep training and be prepared, and we'll come up with something. And then I'm almost sure it was him that called me. And he said, Charles, I want you to go rent the movie Live and Let Die. And I'm like, I knew the movie well. It's a James Bond movie, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
And so he goes, there's a character in there named Baron Samurai, and we're going to kind of take off with that. And I knew what the character was right away. The guy that played the part is no longer with us. It was Jeffrey something, but he was also back in the day. It was 7-Up was the Uncola, and he was the Uncola man, and he had that laugh. And that's where I got that laugh from. But yeah, man, that was Vince hiding my baby face.
That's amazing.
I love it. I mean, growing up, I was absolutely terrified of Papa Shango as a kid. Obviously, you putting the hex on Ultimate Warrior and things like that. But there was one thing I wanted to clear up around the whole Papa Shango, because there was a rumor over the years that, at WrestleMania, the match Hogan and Sid, that you missed your cue or something like that. Is that true? Is that just
the cue was missed? Yeah. It wasn't my fault, but yeah, the cue was missed, man. I mean, what happened is, mind you, I'm pretty green at the time. From the time that I actually put on some wrestling, getting to that point, it was like a couple years at the most, too, And so they told me basically, I knew what I had to do when I got to the ring. Mm-hmm. Okay. It was such a big moment. All I knew is what I had to do when I got to the ring. And so they told me, don't go until we tell you to go, because they didn't want me to miss the cue. And I reminded them, I'm like, hey guys, it's a long, don't forget. And so what happened was, they gave me the cue late. They were probably like, oh, they're like, oh, go. So I was late when I ran out there. So yeah. But the funny thing about it is, because I only knew what I had to know. Later on in life, I would have knew more about the whole thing, but I was, man, that was a big deal to be involved with all those people,
Oh,
and so I just knew what I had to do. But, bad moment. I never heard about it until later on. I was at signings and people are like, you missed your cue. And I'm like, what do you mean I missed my cue? Because mind you, all I knew was what I had to do. Yeah. And so, later on, they told me what happened, and then I never heard anything about it from anybody in the WWE. I never heard one thing about it. You know why? It wasn't my fault. And whose fault it was, they like, what happened? Why was he late? And they're like, man, I gave him the cue late. So that's why I never even heard about it till later.
Wow, that's wild. I think obviously, it got kind of blown out of proportion, at some point of like, because obviously Sid had to kick out of Hogan's leg drop and things like that. But
Right.
no, that's cool that nobody, that you weren't even aware of it yourself.
No. Later on, I would have known more about what was going on, but
of course,
it was just, so.
Crazy.
So obviously Carl mentioned about being sort of terrified as Papa Shango as a kid, and obviously it's quite an intimidating and sort of character. So I'm just curious, who do you think would actually win in a match between your different personas? Because my money would be on Papa Shango, to be honest.
I would have to go. It would, man. How far are we going back?
All the way.
Just the WWE, I think I was 5 different characters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right? Let me see. I think there's Papa Shango, Kama Mustafa, Godfather, and Goodfather.
Yeah, they were the main ones. Obviously, before in Memphis, you were Soul Taker as well.
And that's not counting the Nation of Domination, the Right to Censor. A lot of people forget that I was in the $1 Million Corporation when we fought the football players. Remember that? The Lawrence Taylor thing and Bam Bam?
Oh, yeah,
I've been involved in a few things, man. a lot. What's funny is a lot of people, when I do signings, because I'm basically retired now. I'm retired from wrestling.
Yeah,
I still have my little things that I do, but I'm basically retired. And, just having it. Anyway, I asked me some questions because I'll go on about my life forever.
No, absolutely. So I think you're obviously known for being a pretty tough dude. Obviously, you worked obviously owned a strip club and things like that in the past, as being well documented. And obviously, no one else really could pull off an MMA gimmick as a badass as you did with Karma. But thinking back to obviously like Brawl for All, for example, what was your reaction when you found out you'd be going up against legit former UFC fighter in Dan Severn in like the opening round?
Dude. You know what, bro? Back then I was just the big tough guy, and that's a long time ago. And I didn't even think like that. I'm like, how much does it? I was more like, how much does it pay? And what do we have to do? No, I swear to you. I mean, that's how I thought. I'm like, oh, we get how much? Win or lose? I'm like, oh, it's so yeah. I mean, I didn't even think about it. I got in there with him, and yeah, man. I remember Actually, I lost that fight. They brought me back. And I remember telling him, I'm like, dude, I ain't never lost a fight where somebody wouldn't even take a punch at me. All you kept doing is trying to take me down, So I should have been, my whole problem in that deal is I didn't, believe it or not, I should have took it more serious than I did. And that was my problem. And I don't know why I didn't take it serious, but I didn't. And it cost me.
I mean, I suppose you saved yourself a match with Butterbean at WrestleMania. So
yeah, I wouldn't have wanted. I mean, it was Bart enough. It's bad enough. Bart got me. That dude. You know what? I was in a room with Butterbean, Dwayne Gill, who was Gilbert, and we were talking about it. And Butterbean told me, he's like, dude, he goes, no matter what you guys think about me, I'm a professional fighter. I have had 85 professional fights. You guys might be tough guys, but you're not a professional fighter. And so he goes, that kid don't have a chance with me, man. He goes, I knock the kid out as quick as I want. And he goes, it's sad. He goes, but, I mean, and people don't realize, even though we're barroom tough guys and we can throw hands, we're not skilled fighters.
Yeah, whole different level.
I'm glad I did fight that. So, I got hurt bad enough with Bart.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, he's certainly lived up to his word, all Butterbean there.
Indeed.
So you mentioned sort of briefly about being part of the nation. So I just sort of wanted to sort of ask about that really and see what your thoughts were on sort of being part of the Nation of Domination and obviously being a part of giving that platform to The Rock to become the breakout star that he went on to be. How was your experience in that faction?
You know what? We didn't know the significance of it when we were doing it, and how later on in life would be, kind of important. But dude, we were just having fun. It was good guys. We were heels. I mean, what's funny, if you did that today, we'd probably be baby faces. We probably wouldn't be heels. It was, I don't really talk with The Rock, but when I do see him like at a WrestleMania or something, man, he's so cool. He'll still thank you, man, because he knows the part that we played in it. Good guy, good group. I talk to Ron all the time. D'Lo lives here in Vegas. I just took a trip to LA with him. I see Mark Henry all the time. Good guys. That's who I consider the nation that I was part of.
Of course.
And just good guys. We had so much heat, bro. It was cool to be a part of that whole deal. And then out of that deal to become the Godfather, it was great, man. It was an honor to be part of that. And I hope one day that we actually get them in the Hall of Fame, the Nation of Domination.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, I totally agree. It's very
good. I think, as you said, then, like at the time, it probably, people didn't realize what it would go on to become. And looking back to see, it was huge. Before you kind of became the Godfather, there were rumors at the time that potentially you were thinking about leaving WWE to go and join the NWO. Is that any truth to
that? That was before at one point I was going to go there, and we'd worked out some deals, and to make a long story short, they decided to save some money and they went with Virgil. And so the little part that Virgil had was basically going to be my part. But I'm glad that I didn't go there because, we got to run with the Godfather, which was the coolest thing,
Oh, yeah.
To this day, I mean, bro, I am so much the Godfather that it's if you were hanging out with me today, you'd be like, he's still the Godfather.
I love it. But now speaking of the sort of the Godfather character, and you can obviously, like, personally, I think you can see sort of what a fun time you're having with it. But do you think sort of when it comes to sort of today's sort of market, do you think the Godfather is a sort of character you could, or the type of character you could see today?
I was in Pennsylvania this past weekend, and I did like 3 shows. I don't normally do wrestling shows. I do the signings and stuff, but I did these 3 wrestling shows, and one of the biggest topics was, how would the Godfather do today? And I can tell you this: you will never ever see another Godfather in the form that which I was ever, because you would offend just too many people. There's no way that you could have a Godfather on TV today, not doing and saying that's too bad. It's just the world. I'm not here to knock the world or knock soft people, but everything changes, man. It was so cool to be a part of that whole Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And whatever era was before that. I don't know how many eras. I was probably part of 3 or 4 eras. But just to be part of that Attitude Era and to be the Godfather, dude, it was crazy. And I was having the time of my life.
Yeah. And there truly is only one Godfather, to be fair. No one can replicate that.
I don't. It would be hard to have I know that they put some like the Tyrus guy, and they put some girls on some guys, but I mean, I was a pimp selling pussy. I'm selling hoes. Helping people smoke weed, selling hoes. I mean,
no, there's absolutely only one. I think you could just imagine. You can see.
You imagine how quick would they be off the air if I came out there with some and said, it's time to get on the hoe train. Could you imagine calling girls hoes today? Well, how much trouble you'd be in? Or selling them?
Time. Yeah,
it really
is.
Trying to
such
sell
a different time.
You might get away with telling people to smoke weed. That part's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, to be fair, it's gotten better in the States now, isn't it, to be fair?
How's it there?
I mean, it's not. It's still illegal, but it's not as frowned upon, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a minor offense, but it's still illegal.
So you don't have medical marijuana any place?
Not that I'm aware of. They do the cannabis oil, but you can't get actual weed.
Well, they'll catch sooner or later. It'll happen.
Oh yeah.
They'll catch on.
Definitely.
On. But no, I think obviously you mentioned, or as Anthony said, there's only one Godfather. You could see your personality kind of shining through with everything, and you absolutely got that character over. Like I think a lot of people may have seen the Godfather as like a mid card level kind of gimmick, but you got to the point. You won the Intercontinental title. How did how big of a moment
what
was
I
that?
tell people? This is what I tell people. I was the most over mid-carder you'll ever see in your life. And back in the day in the basketball, in the States, we play in basketball arenas. And they have applause meters up on the wall. And The Rock and Stone Cold and Taker, everybody looks at that stuff. And I can't tell you how many times I had the loudest number. If it wasn't me coming out, it's when I would call the girls out. And so I always say, you can call me a mid-carder all you want. 22 years since I retired. I'm still under contract with them. They're still making merchandise of me. I still have lines when I go to do these signings. It's still cool to talk to the people, man. What else can you ask for, man? What else could you ask for?
Absolutely. No, you absolutely got it over. But I mean, winning the Intercontinental title, how big of a deal was that for you? I know obviously you held it for like a month or so, but like to be on that, to be on that list.
They put it on me, and what happened is when they put it on me, it just the Intercontinental title didn't mean anything because I had the girls, and it just became something that the girls would carry because the show was bigger than the Intercontinental Championship, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And so I think they just put it on me just so later on when they put me in the Hall of Fame, they had something on there. And I think I was tag team. But, it was cool to get it, but it was it was hard to keep it on that character the way the character was, because the character wasn't there to wrestle. He was there to entertain. And I had told Vince, I told Vince, you know what, man? They see enough wrestling. Let me go out there and just entertain them, man. Just don't make it about the wrestling, make it about the show. And we went with it, and it got over. It got over the first time we put it on TV. It got over, like, overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was huge. I think you're right as well. Like certain characters, like yourself, like the likes of Taker and stuff, don't need a belt. It's all about the gimmick, and that is its own thing. That's big enough. So, yeah.
You know what the funny thing is a lot of people don't know. It was all my wife's idea, The Godfather. It was not something that Vince came up with. It was all my wife's, who I'm still married to today. It was all my wife's idea. I wanted to be a mean pimp. I wanted to be a mean pimp. And from the clothes to she had a jeweler making the gold. We had people making the vests and airbrushing them. All I did was the silly stuff. Anytime that I wore an outfit, one of my vests, and they always said something about marijuana on them. Anytime I wore one on TV, I wouldn't wear it on TV again. I would wear it on house shows, but not on TV. So she was constantly fur coats, and it was all her idea. I mean, really, Can you believe that? All her idea. And
That's
she figured out a way to get my personality over. Gimmick.
Do you know what? In a way, like I'd take your point on that. Like, that's I guess that's why we see so much of your personality in it, because like I say, it's sort of come from that place and that person who loves you.
Yeah, dude, how you see me now, man? Ain't that? When I go out, me and my wife have to go out. When I go out today, this is what I'm wearing. This is what I'll be looking like. So it's not. This is how I really dress.
Awesome,
love it.
So obviously, Carl mentioned the Undertaker briefly there in terms of gimmicks, but I just wanted to sort of ask you quickly about the BSK, or the Bone Street Crew, and sort of how the sort of formation of that came about, because obviously you weren't a faction in the sense of an on-screen sense, but it seems like a bit of a brotherhood backstage, as it were. Is that just something that's like, you have all always been friends, and that the sort of name came about? Or
me and Taker have been friends since about 87. We've been really good friends. When I got there, I met Yokozuna, I met Rikishi, I met the Godwins, I met Savio Vega. And we all were just guys that kind of clicked together, and we all played dominoes. And so Yoko's the one that came up with the name BSK.
Yeah.
And it was just a group of guys. We'd go to strip clubs together. We'd hang out together. We'd ride together. We'd be on the planes together. We'd play dominoes together. We'd watch each other's back, and we were all good friends, you know. And that's all it was. The clique was a whole different deal, you know, than we were. And so to this day, you know, we have our little BSK Facebook page that we communicate and stuff, but we're all still friends today, you know. Taker amazing. Being one of my best friends. Did you guys see Taker's Hall of Fame speech?
Yes.
Dude, I don't know why he keeps telling people I'm a bad influence on him.
Well, you know, funnily enough, I was going to mention that in the next question, because obviously you and Mark go all the way back to the Memphis days and things like that. Obviously, you knew him before you came over to WWE. So you keep saying things like, you know, he's going to take stuff to the grave and you're a bad influence. I was going to just ask, you know, is there any stories that come to mind which, you know, maybe you can share?
All right. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little something. And I'm sure I think they're letting it out there, but Undertaker has his own podcast.
Oh, okay.
And if you kind of look up Undertaker's podcast, I don't know when they're going to release it, but he has his own podcast where he's already shot a bunch of episodes. And I am the second episode. It's me and him. And I'm going to have to save those stories from him. But I will tell you this. He tells stories about me and him that I was going to go down to the grave without even bringing it up. And when he starts these stories, I'm like, bro, you really sure? I mean, we're having a shot of Jack. We drink a bottle of Jack on the show. We're having a bottle, you know, and I'm just like, dude, you really want to bring up these stories? But he did. Oh, wow. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh,
but I mean,
I can't wait for that.
Oh, it's pretty, dude, I'm telling you, he tells stories where I'm like, I don't mind telling on myself, but you're telling, I'm not the Undertaker. So it's gonna be pretty cool. But we have some really just crazy stories, man. I've known him for so long, and we've been through 3 wives, motorcycles, problems, you know, kids, college, you know, we've been through it. Besides, like I said, my relationship with him is not about wrestling. When we talk, we never talk about wrestling. But, you know, the night that he lost to Brock, me and him were talking all afternoon, and never did I even come to my mind to say, hey, what's the finish? You know, because we talk just life. We don't really talk wrestling. We're buds. So it's cool to have a friend like that.
No, that's awesome. Amazing to know that it's, like you say, it's more than just a job. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah. BSK, baby, BSK. So,
just one question. I apologize because you probably have this one a great deal, but I'll ask anyway. Could you name somebody or the person you enjoyed working with the most? I know that might be a bit of a loaded question, but do you have a particular favorite?
I used to like working with Mark Taker because I would my goal was, besides working with Owen Hart, besides working with so many people, I could go on. Owen was great to work with. Taker was good because I'd always try to get him to break character, and I'd always try to get him to laugh or something or do something stupid. But him being my good friend and me wrestling him is probably, I've been in more caskets as different characters than anybody. You know, I think if I've wrestled him 100 times and I'm 99-1, but I got one against them.
Oh, I love it. No, I've seen a few of those videos where you're trying to get him to break character, like him and Paul Bearer. You can tell that you're so close. He's trying his best.
Oh, if you watch Paul, when I'm like, I know you like Hogan, Paul Bearer
go, I love it. So obviously, you mentioned obviously chatting to him before his loss to Brock at WrestleMania, stuff like that. But you know, WrestleMania itself is synonymous with special entrances and things like that. And obviously, WrestleMania 2000, you got to kind of have your own special entrance, kind of being sung to the ring by Ice-T. How did that come about? How was that? Was that good?
I had met him a couple times before. The WWE or F at the time, I'm not sure what it was. They had set it up because they had come out with I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have the Aggression albums and some band, you know, and whoever would do, I don't know bands, but Snoop Dogg did this one, and this one did this one, and Stone Cold was done. Well, Ice-T did my Pimpin' Ain't Easy song.
Yeah.
And so they thought it'd be cool if we came out together. Me, him, and D-Lo, I think, was in that with us.
Yeah, you were tagging.
Yeah, that was cool, man.
Bossman and Buchanan.
Yeah, I had bought a 64 Impala lowrider with all the switches, and it was pretty cool. We'd go for rides in it. But yeah, it was a cool day, man. It was a cool day. And it was in LA, which is only like 3 hours from Vegas. So, it was pretty cool.
Oh, good.
So, obviously, you mentioned Undertaker's Hall of Fame induction this year, but obviously you were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016.
Yes.
So I just wondered if you could sort of describe the sort of moment you found out and sort of how that felt.
You know what? I was on the way to the gym, and a guy by the name of Mark Carano called me. He's no longer with them, but he was head of talent back then. And he's like, "Hey, Papa, you coming to WrestleMania, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm coming." He goes, "You bringing your family?" I'm like, "My family?" I'm like, "Well, it's me and my wife." He goes, "Well, I want you to bring your whole family." I'm like, "Well, why would I bring my whole family?" He goes, "Because Vince is putting you in the Hall of Fame this year." And I'm like, "Wow, you're joking, right?" I thought they'd have to have a special to put a category to put a pimp in the Hall of Fame. And so it was cool. But that's how I found out.
Wow, that's awesome.
Pretty cool.
I mean, obviously, you mentioned you've been married for 20 years or so. Has your wife forgiven you yet for not mentioning her in your speech? Or
No. Can you hear me now? Mommy. See, I got a big house, thank God. No, every time I put her over, I remind her. She's like, "Well, too bad you didn't remember that night." I was just, dude, that's one of the, I mean, Snoop Dogg was there. I mean, come on. And it was just, believe me, she'll never let that go. Believe me, you have no idea how bad I feel about it.
No, it's one of them moments, isn't it? It's there's a lot to take in there.
Dude, I was just having so much fun. My grandson, you see, I'm the type of dude that don't write. Yeah, see, I'm never scripted. I'd rather just show up and say, "Let's go." Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, come across.
I might have to hit a certain point, a certain town, but I'm just swinging it, right? And so they kept staying on me about getting my speech. And I'm like, I ain't doing no speech. I'm just gonna do this in this order. Well, my wife's like, "Baby, you need to write it down." I tell my wife, "You know what? Don't worry. I'm going to put you over because there's 2 wives before her. And then I'm going to put you over and tell her how much I love you and this and that. And you're the creator. Don't worry about it, right?" I'm putting it over like that. And so it came to a point where I was going to talk about my grandson. It was his birthday, and I want everybody to wish him happy birthday. And that went so well that I skipped over to the next thing.
Yeah.
And then the second I got done, I went, "Did I mention my wife? Did I mention my wife?" And I swear to God, I'm like, "Hey, did I mention?" I was going to go back out there. I'm like, "Did I mention my wife?" They're like, "No, I don't think you did." And it just, yeah, man, that was a bad one. I should have wrote, "Hey, if you want to learn a lesson, write the shit down. Write it down." Don't be like me. "Oh, I don't remember." Yeah. So no, she ain't forgave me yet. No. But we're still married.
You mentioned obviously Snoop Dogg, and he was inducted in the same year. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, was there an after party, and did you get to spend any time with Snoop?
I got to see him earlier that day. No. Dude, after the Hall of Fame went down, bro. After the Hall of Fame, I felt so bad, and my wife was so let down. I mean, it was. I just went to my room, man, and just tried my best. It wasn't good.
Yeah,
there wasn't an after party for me. Can you hear me? No.
No.
Yeah, I forgave him.
You're still making it up to it this day.
Dude, you can't make it up. I'm telling you, no matter what. And it comes up all the time. I wish I could make it up.
Yeah. So obviously, if we kind of look at today, obviously you mentioned, you don't really, you're kind of retired more or less rather than conventions and the like, maybe a show here or there. But, what are your thoughts on the current product? Obviously, we mentioned like the Godfather character probably couldn't fly today, but, WWE,
I'm
AEW.
Completely honest with you. I do not watch wrestling. Haven't watched it in a long time. Nothing against wrestling. It's not because of the product changing. I don't watch hardly any TV. I am busy 24 hours a day. The little time that I watch TV, it's not going to be wrestling. So I'm not really up to what's going on, and I'm not current at all. I don't know if that sounds bad, but I'm out.
I think given how much of your life you gave,
I'm not following it right now.
Yeah. No, I can totally understand.
That's fair. Yeah.
What I hear, I used to hear a lot of good things about the AEW. I'm hearing that maybe the two are balancing out a little bit more. I know I have seen some women's matches. I'm very impressed with what the women do today. Yeah. I think the matches that I have seen and the little bit that I have seen in some of these shows, the women seem to go just as hard as the men these days. So I think that's pretty cool.
No, it's definitely
it's a different style of wrestling. It's but everything changes.
Well, that's it.
Absolutely. So obviously, the amazing news is that you're going to be heading across the pond to our neck of the woods. You're going to be at Wales Comic Con in December this year. I think it's the 3rd and 4th of December. Obviously, alongside the likes of William Regal and Johnny Gargano. What can fans expect from meeting you at the convention?
With me, I don't know what you can expect anything to me, but a good time, man. I said Papa Shango's going to be there. We'll sign everything. And just how you see me now, man, I'm an easy guy to approach, and I like to have fun, and let's have a good time out there.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
So with you coming over to the UK, can I just ask, do you have any thoughts on the sort of the UK and the UK fans from your experience over the years?
I've never had a bad one over there, so just glad to be back over there, man. Yeah. And there's probably a lot of people there that might have only seen me as Papa Shango, and they've just never seen me as Godfather, So it'll be a good time. I can't wait. I can't wait to see everybody. It'll be a good party.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we can't wait to see you. I think, obviously, kind of last kind of question or two. You're a really big family man. You mentioned you got 4 kids. Is it? You've got 4 kids.
Yes.
Do you see any of your children potentially kind of going the route of pro wrestling or different careers?
No. My oldest is 35 and my youngest is 20, and none of them are going to be wrestlers.
No.
If they wanted to, it'd be cool, but no, none of them showed any, interest in being wrestlers.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So, for me, lastly, I would just like to say, obviously, you've, in terms of other stuff you've been up to, we believe you've recently launched your own cannabis flavor within the Insane OG.
Yes.
I just wonder if you could sort of tell us a little bit about the experience of sort of putting that together.
Well, Be Real with Cypress Hill, he owns a bunch of dispensaries in California. I think there's 9 of them. They're called Dr. Green Thumbs. And he called me one day. He's like, hey, I know what type of flavor you like. I got some things I want you to try. He goes, I'd like me and you get together and let's do a collaboration where it's your own strain that you picked out. So with the Insane Godfather, it is my strain that I picked out, and it's really a good strain. But you can only get it in California.
Yeah. But nice. No, it's amazing to sort of have your name on that, though. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's pretty cool, man. It's great. The jacket in the back, that's an Insane jacket.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's great. Plus, the Insane, it's a premium line, and it's really good, all of it. I think there's 20 or 30 different flavors, but I'm one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, any of our listeners or watchers over in California, make sure to check it out. But I think, before we wrap things up, obviously, we're huge fans of your Instagram page. Obviously, we've interacted a few times on there, with videos and comments and things like that, and genuinely just put smiles on our faces just seeing what you're up to and, engaging with all the fans and stuff like that. So, kind of just before you go, can you tell people how they can follow you and kind of keep up to date with everything you got going on?
I only social media. I'm on Instagram as The Godfather. I'm verified with the little check mark. On Facebook, I'm the WWE Godfather, but I'm much more active on my Instagram. And so if you really want to be up to date and see what I'm doing daily, come check me out and follow me on Instagram.
Yeah,
But
it's a lot of fun.
If you're not cannabis friendly, I might not be the one to follow.
No, there's a lot going on there. It's definitely entertaining. But
yes,
thank you so much for taking the time. Honestly, we genuinely appreciate it, and we can't wait to see our neck of the woods in Wales end of the year.
It's gonna be fun. Can't wait.
Hey everybody, this is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A to the K. A to the K. A to the K.